So it's 11:30 by my clock. So let's get started. So yeah, good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to the Dreamcatchers session today. We'll be talking about the Australia undergraduate admissions, and it's an admissions insights session. So before we dive into the session, let me tell you a little bit about my firm, the Dreamcatchers. My name is Surbhi Kumar, and I am the founder of the Dreamcatchers. It is an education consulting firm, and we are based out of Mumbai, India. Our mission is to assist students in realizing their dream of obtaining quality and best fit education. How do we do that? We provide our services which help students in stream and subject selection, especially for students in grade 9th and 10th, and course and college selection, specifically for grade 11th and 12th students. We also provide our services in the higher education admission guidance space for the students who are targeting overseas universities or Indian universities. We are here to help you in terms of all different services and whatever handholding you need. In terms of services, especially when it comes to career guidance, we offer psychometric assessment, career fitment report, a personalized counseling which helps you with the detailed action plan and different career options and career pathways. In terms of higher education admission guidance, we provide our services which helps in your profile assessment and profile elevation as needed. In the country and course shortlisting, best fit college mapping, helping you with the letter of recommendations and statement of purpose in terms of guidance, how to get it done through different recommenders and how you can write a good personal statement, helping you with different scholarship options wherever needed, helping you with the interview preparation and also visa guidance. With that, let's move on to what you can expect to kind of get out of this hour-long session. So I'll be starting with giving you an overview of the Australian undergraduate admission space, wherein I'll talk about application process, different universities, specifically top universities, different academic intakes, what are the steps needed, what are the components of the application, and what is an ideal timeline, what does it look like. So again, this will be just an overview, so we will not be diving deeper into the details, but the goal is that we provide you some information, you take it ahead, do your own research, and if needed, we are here to help you out as well. The highlight of our session today is that we have University of Sydney with us. So they will talk about, specifically Sandeep Bhalla, who will talk about the Australian undergraduate admissions, what are his recommendations, what is his advice, how to approach the application process, and questions specifically to the University of Sydney undergraduate admissions. We'll keep aside some time for Q&A. So just keep posting your questions in the Q&A or chat box, right? And during the Fireside chat itself, I will try to pick few questions, or if time permits, towards the end as well. So if you want to maximize your time in this session, it is a live session, you have University of Sydney here, go ahead and ask these questions from your end, okay? Now, generally, we are conducting our sessions on Sunday mornings, given the students have some availability during Sundays as such. So being a Sunday morning, it's important to just be active in this session. So let's start with a warm-up quiz. You will be seeing two questions on your screen right now, and you can just put in your responses in the chat box. So the first question is, which country is credited with inventing Wi-Fi, Google Maps, and HPV vaccine? Is it US, is it UK, is it Canada, or is it none of these? Second is particularly about Australia. Australia issues post-study work permit to international students. What do you think? Is it a correct statement or is it an incorrect statement? So just put in your responses in the chat box. I'll keep it open for a few minutes. Okay. I can see responses coming in. Okay. Okay. Well, in the interest of time, yes, majority of you, you're right. For first, it's none of the above. So the correct answer is Australia. And for second one, it's the correct statement. Okay. With that, let's move into session. So when we talk about universities in Australia, it has 43 universities, out of which 37 are public universities, 4 are private universities, and 2 are international universities, which has their campus in Australia. Now, I want to bring light to the group of 8 members. These are those universities which comprises of the leading research intensive universities of Australia. As you can see on the screen, it includes some of the prominent names. University of Sydney is among the second in the Australia, University of Melbourne being number 1. And when we talk about world rankings, though we should not totally just make our college list or admission decisions based on the ranking, but it is also an important reflection of how these universities are progressing in different areas, which are really important for a student to decide. Now, when we talk about rankings, these group of 8 universities, these are ranked among top 150 universities in the world itself. The Geo8 universities, they receive the maximum grant, and that's why these are the ones who can really afford to do high-level research-intensive projects and assignments as well. With that, let's also talk about the intake. So Australia has 3 intakes, but I again want to spotlight on the semester 2, because that's the one which is primarily preferred by international students, be it US, UK, Canadian students, and particularly Indian students as well, because the start time of this semester actually aligns very well with the high school completion. Okay, yes, there are other semesters like, as you can see, the one which starts in February and March. It is semester 1, and it is primarily preferred by the Australian students per se. There is a third semester as well, being Australia being in the southern hemisphere, like so summer is during what we have like here as winters, right? So they do have another intake which is in November, December, but not many courses are offered and not many universities offer this intake as such. So the important thing is that you check out the website of each of the universities to see which courses are being offered in different intake periods per se. Okay, and as you can see in terms of deadlines, primarily again talking about semester 2, so it generally falls towards April, May of the commencing year. So by then, that's the maximum time frame. By then, your applications should be submitted. Okay, now when we talk about the steps involved, it's pretty straightforward, but let's go one by one. So the first and foremost is research and choosing a course. And I would say irrespective of the destination you are choosing for studying abroad, it's always good to research and research well. So you have a lot of resources which are there. So go ahead, utilize those and check the entry requirements of the course which you are shortlisting. Then next step is preparing your documents, which includes having your academic transcripts or mark sheets, if needed, like SAT or ACT scores, English proficiency test, and many a times personal statement is also needed. Once you have these documents, next step is go ahead and apply. And when it comes to Australian universities, you have 2 options. Either you go ahead and apply directly through the university website, which is also a very straightforward process, or many of these universities have authorized agents as well. So you can use their services as well, but make sure that you check the website of the college and you are just going ahead with the authorized agent, which is mentioned there. Now, once you apply, obviously your application will go for a review with the admissions team, and then you will get an offer. It could be a conditional, firstly, it would be a conditional offer, and then you can accept the offer following the instructions which are stated. Go ahead and make your deposit as such, and then you'll get a confirmation of enrollment. You can utilize this confirmation of enrollment document to start with your visa process, which is subclass 500 visa, and also start with the insurance coverage process as well. Then comes accommodation, but keep in mind that you can start looking out or hunting for accommodation as soon as you receive your conditional offer. The sooner you begin it, the better it is, because the accommodation, like, it gets filled very quickly. So it's better to start on time, right? So then once you have the accommodation finalized, and definitely before your arrival to the country, then go ahead and prepare for departure. The important point here is that many of the universities will offer briefings, pre-departure briefings or orientation program in your home country as well. So make sure that you are attending those so that you're well prepared. And also a very simple tip, just make sure and you create a checklist so that you kind of take care of each and everything, be it from small to big, before you arrive. Okay. Next is, again, what are the components? Again, very straightforward. Application form. Definitely, if you're applying to any university, you would need to fill an application form. Then is your school transcripts. It would include your performance over the years and even the predictive grades for 12th appearing students per se. Test scores as such. Portfolio, it's again needed for a few programs, not all. Some supplemental materials which can vary by institution and program. It may ask you to write another statement for scholarships and awards purpose as such. And as I said, it may vary by institution or even by course per se. Interview is also another component of the process, but it is not something which each and every university is doing. Some university may ask for an interview as well. Now, personal statement or essay as needed, and it is a way for you to even reflect your career goals, your personality, and it helps the admissions office to really assess whether this applicant is a good fit for the college or not. Okay. With that, I also wanted to give you some visibility of an ideal timeline. Again, it's an ideal timeline for July intake. It may vary for student to student, case to case as such. But if we talk about ideal timeline, again, if you plan to study abroad, it is advisable that you start as early as possible. And if we talk about Australia, so our advice is, like, say in grade 11th, you should begin your research process then, maybe towards the end of grade 11th as such, and consider giving at least one attempt of SAT or ACT during your grade 11th itself. Then once you are in grade 12th, you can continue with your research, try to get a college list created, different courses, what are the requirements as such. Do your research well for next couple of months, and even during this time frame, give your second attempt of SAT if you're not satisfied with your first attempt and you feel you could have done better. Even giving your English proficiency test during this time frame is advisable. Now, from September, or I would say towards August, September, you can do your personal statement pre-work as well, because it would require you a lot of thinking as well, like why you want to do this course, why that particular college, and what makes you a good student, what are your qualities which you would want to reflect through the personal statement as such. Now, by November or so, have a finalized college list, and that should be also a time frame when your documents should be ready and you should be submitting your application. So specifically, see, for Indian students, the period which starts from Jan onwards, they are very occupied when it comes to their board exams, the practicals per se, right? And many other things. So better to get it done before you get into the Jan period per se. Again, the applications is open from August onwards, the previous year, before you start your session, right? But this is the time frame which you can follow as well. Now, towards March and April, you will start getting different offers. You can evaluate those, and depending upon your own suitability, you can accept it and then get into the visa process per se. Okay. Now, towards the session will begin sometime in July, towards July end. So this is your time. Once your visa application is done, sit back, relax, just prepare yourself for a transformative experience ahead. Okay. Now, also keep in mind that you are creating a balanced college list, something which consists of dream, others like target, or which is within your reach, and some of the safety schools, which are your fallback options. Okay, so with that, I come to the end of the overview which I wanted to provide. So now we can get started with the fireside chat, and I will just enable the audio and video for our guest speaker for the day, Sandeep Balla, who is from University of Sydney. So I'll just give him a minute to just check the settings at his end. Sandeep, can you hear me? You might have to unmute yourself, Sandeep.
I can hear you. Thank you so much.
Hey, hey, welcome, Sandeep. Thank you so much for taking out time today.
Thank you too.
Okay, so, University of Sydney doesn't need any introduction, but just to put things into perspective, this is the university which is oldest in Australia. It is the first university there. It has many awards and accolades as such. It is first in Australia for sustainability ranking. Second, when we talk about QS World Ranking, and I can go on and on with different things. But now, when we have Sandeep with us, so we can get all different insights through him and through the questions which I'll ask. So maybe without further ado, we can start.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Sandeep, we have primarily students out here, but couple of parents have also joined. So I just wanted to mention that so that you know the audience which we have today. So my first question is, what is your suggestion or your recommendation for students who are trying to narrow down their list of universities for undergraduate programs in Australia?
That's actually a very good question. Although I work for University of Sydney, most of the times I end up recommending students to, let's say, University of New South Wales or University of Melbourne, depending on their own fit, the way I see it. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly speaking, what I generally advise is, and I really loved it when you mentioned that, while there are rankings in place and some Australian universities rank pretty high, it is not the only metric. So I would like to start with that. While you check the university rankings, or maybe let's say a program ranking, kindly note they are not the only factor, but just one of those factors. And once you are done with that, do research your course offerings as well. Ensure university offers strong programs in the field of your research. For an example, when you talk about Sydney, let's say, so when you are talking about a business or an engineering program, do check out how their courses are designed. Like for an example, for me, when we talk about engineering, we talk about professional engagement program, wherein you're allowed to work for 600 hours when you are completing your degree, which gives you some sort of work experience. Similarly, we do that via Job Smart Edge or industry placement program when you're doing a business program in Australia with University of Sydney again. So do check your course offerings. Most of the times, location would also matter. So check the city's lifestyle, check the climate, proximity to your family if you have somebody based out of there. So you may end up saving something on your living expenses as well. Then the other thing that some of the people that I have generally spoken to have missed out upon is campus facilities. Do you have libraries there? What type of labs are there? I had a student who was actually interested to create F1 Formula cars. You might have heard about them. And we happened to have a club which I was not aware about. And the student ended up telling me, so I mean, I researched about your university a little bit, and then I realized that you do happen to have an F1 club. And you also happen to have a rocketry club as well. So you can like technically create a rocket and send them up to the space. So
Okay.
knowing the campus really helps you as well, because let's say if you have some extracurricular activities, would give you a
Mm-hmm.
good idea. And
Mm-hmm.
then cost and scholarship, student support services. Is that uni a cultural fit for you? Does it allow you to practice your own religion if it's important? And then the most important aspect is the cost and the scholarship. I mean, I'm saying this from a part wherein some parents have also joined us. So do compare the tuition fee, the cost of living. For an example, Melbourne is slightly affordable when you try to compare it with Sydney. But when you talk about job perspective, Sydney is known as the capital, financial capital of Australia. And then availability of scholarships as well. So I think that should really help students make a well-informed decision when selecting a university in Australia.
All good points, and I think this should give a good food for thought to all the parents and students out here, how they can go about even preparing the college list per se. So thank you for that, Sandeep. I'll move on to my next question, and I'll just remind all the folks in the audience, please put your questions in the Q&A or chat box, and I will try to pick up. And I do see a question from Vaishnavi. Okay, Vaishnavi, we'll just pick that up. Let's move on to our next question. Okay, so Sandeep, could you walk us through the application process for Indian students particularly? And does it really vary university by university, or is it pretty much the same? And again, maybe primarily for a group of eight as
Okay.
such.
Thank you for that. I mean, generally the university will have a different requirement. So I always advise to check a university's official website to understand specific requirements and deadlines. Like for an example, up till this year, when we considered anybody who was applying for CPA, who was studying CPSC in their grade 12, we were taking best of four subjects. Now
Mhm.
this year we will be taking best of five, which
Okay.
in which English is a mandatory subject. So the requirements also change. So it is
Mm-hmm.
advisable to check university requirements. Then do check whether the applications, as you rightly mentioned in the beginning, wherein can you submit a direct application or do you have to go through a registered agent? Like for an example, for us, we accept direct applications wherein there might be certain universities who do not. So do check the application process through that. Common
Mm-hmm.
documentation generally require you to submit your academic transcripts, proof of your English language proficiency test scores, your passport copy, statement of purpose. Again, that is very much not required when you talk about it from a academic requirement perspective, but you may have heard about something we call as genuine student requirement. So you might have to probably submit a statement of purpose wherein you have to specifically mention why are you interested to study in a specific university you're applying to, and why are you interested to study in Australia, let's say. So that could be one good idea, and writing a statement of purpose could really help you secure a scholarship as well. And then there might be some financial statements which are generally required for your visa purposes, but I think that should be it. And then these are the documentation part. Then you submit your application, pay the application fee, and then you can track your application statuses by having access to your student portal. So once you submit your application to the university, universities generally end up giving you access to student portals. If you have applied through an agent, do ask for your student portal access from them. They should be happen like they should be able to share it with you, and then that is where you receive your offers as well. So do check if you have received your offer, and if accepted, again the offers are sent out to you as Surbhi has rightly mentioned, whether it is a conditional or an unconditional offer. Once you receive an unconditional offer, then you can accept and pay the fee, and then you can apply for your visa once your confirmation of enrollment is shared. I hope that covers most of the things. Anything specific you want me to talk about, Surbhi?
No, I think you pretty much trust upon all different things when it comes to application process and even the requirement, document requirement per se. But if you can extend upon this and let our audience understand, like how does the admissions team reviews the entire application of the student or put things in entirety there?
Applications, and that could really help. Wherein I worked for admissions for University of Sydney, we generally look at your merit itself, and generally that's it. But let's say when you're talking about a specific program such as veterinary sciences, that is where we would want you to appear for a Casper test. It's a situational ability test wherein we might want to ask questions like, what would you do if you see a dog who is hurt on the roadside? So these questions are just to give you an idea and give us an idea as a admissions team wherein are you doing good? So you need to take a Casper test, and the score that you get there will help us to determine your entry for veterinary courses. If you're applying for, let's say, a visual arts course, that is where we might want you to submit a portfolio. So do check through the websites about the specific requirements, but I think that should really be it, apart from your merit. So most of the courses, like 90%, it's purely your merit. We generally do not look at your 9th, 10th, and 11th grades. Certain university may, when they are giving out a conditional offer, University of Sydney does not. So for us, your final grades matter, but it is always advisable, as we mentioned, do check a university's website, do write to them if you can, and ask what are their requirements and how can they, like, what are their admission processes, because it will differ. But just to give you a general idea, as we were talking about, not all universities will look at your 9th, 10th, and 11th grades. We just need your final grades to ensure that you're doing great.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Sandeep. And as you have touched upon statement of purpose or personal statement, uh, just from your perspective, because you have been a part of admissions team as well, what kind of tips or again advice you would give to the students in terms of crafting that personal statement, particularly when they are looking for Australian universities?
In general, when we talk about statement of purposes, and again, I'm being very, very specific to University of Sydney for a very specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, each university will have a different requirement when they assess a personal statement. For us, we do not need it for 90% of the courses again. We need it for Bachelor of Education courses if you're applying for a secondary Bachelor of Education course, or let's say a higher level course within the Bachelor of Education degrees. Or if you talk about veterinary sciences, or maybe let's say if somebody is here for an MBA or Master of Management program. So that is where we would want you to submit a personal statement, because the cohort size is slightly smaller compared to other programs such as Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Arts, or maybe even Sciences. So again, just to give you a very roundabout idea, while writing or crafting your personal statement could be that start writing a little early. And that would be one idea wherein you give yourself plenty of time to brainstorm, write and revise. Be specific as well. I've seen like most of the times when I used to assess the applications, there were students who had applied to Sydney, but their application said, while I'm interested to apply to University of British Columbia. And that what happens there is that I understand that as an anomaly because you have to submit so many statements across. But what admission advisors think is the student not sincere enough when they are submitting their application? So the basic of these applications is to ensure that there are like you just proofread it and you have given yourself enough time and you have been specific. Do ensure that it has a clear structure, has like it should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, and make sure whatever wherever you are paragraph like paraphrasing something, make sure each paragraph like that is what I personally believe in, that it should have a distinct purpose wherein if you're trying to answer tell us something about yourself, and if you're trying to write it in two paragraphs, ensure that each paragraph has a distinct purpose. And this is something that I was talking about in the previous webinar that I attended, uh, the relevance of AI, uh,
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT and Gemini. So, and given that the personal statements that I have seen a lot, many students have started using it. Nobody is against it. But what I personally feel is that once you start using it completely and without, your own touch, your applications miss out on personal touch. I am not part of scholarship committee at University of Sydney, but the feedback has generally been, and that's not just for India, but all across, wherein a personal touch is something which remains, and the students who are not considered for scholarship is tentatively basis that. So, like for an example, we have a scholarship and it's full tuition right. It's called Sydney International Undergraduate Academic Excellence Scholarship. There are a couple of questions there, but the students who have been able to secure those scholarships are the one who have put in a thought, and their statements are not just ChatGPT or just Gemini. It has to be you. It should be able to convey, like for an example, if I'm asking, tell us about yourself or give us an idea to bring change to India. So it should be well thought of and well written, and
Mm-hmm.
it should really, really have that personal touch. Do show your passion. Why do you want to study at a certain university? Mention that I have been dedicatedly, pursuing that dream, and be honest as well. You don't have to be like thinking of University of Sydney or let's say Melbourne once you were like when you were in grade first or grade five. You can be as honest as saying I was not aware. I have started doing my research in grade 11, but hey, I really like the professor who teaches in your economics program. I've gone through the YouTube video and I really found their ideas which resonate with me. I have gone through your clubs, I've gone through your societies, I actually have gone through your course opportunities, and hey, we really like the Job Smart program. So
Mhm.
start showing your passion via research and not something which is very rhetoric. That helps. Highlight your
Mhm.
achievements, and as I said, like towards the end, proofread your statements. That's really, really.
Great. All excellent points, Sandeep. Yeah. Just to extend upon what you said, being authentic will actually work in your favor, and researching well would help you substantiate all different points which you want to put forward and have the university know about you and your choices when it comes to course or college. So, thank you, Sandeep. Those were excellent points. I'll move on to the next question now. And in this question itself, we will try to answer Vaishnavi's question. So, my next question is pertaining to standardized tests, Sandeep. So, can you, especially when you spoke about merit, so can you discuss the significance of SAT or ACT test scores when it comes to the admission process? And how does that really help a student in terms of securing an admission to an Australian university, in which specific context, especially when they have like their transcripts and maybe they are scoring pretty well, or maybe if they are scoring average? And then what Vaishnavi has specifically asked, and that's not like a university specific question, but she is asking, can we apply for SAT in 10th class? So I'll just answer that one. So, see, SAT score is valid for many years. I think it's 4 or 5 years, but uh, 10th, starting in 10th, may not be advisable. Maybe you prepare in 10th standard, but give your first attempt in 11th, and you have pre-SAT and other options as well. PSAT, sorry, not pre-SAT, it's PSAT, right? You can give that as well to get well versed with the structure, right? Again, for every scenario it might be different, so we may have to understand your strengths better as well to provide a more authentic response there, right? But in general it is valid for many years. So now let me switch back to Sandeep. So Sandeep, what do you think about the question which I have posed? What is your response there?
Thank you so much. And that's really a good question, because till I think last month, I used to think that all Australian universities accept SATs, which unfortunately is not true, even to my surprise. Um, they generally consider your grade 12th results only. But when you talk about University of Sydney, and I'll probably like to make that differentiation, every university will have a different entry requirement. Like for an example, for University of New South Wales, if you're applying for their Bachelor of Science and Doctor of Medicine, a similar program there, they would want you to take an ISAT. University of Sydney does not want you to take that. So talking about SATs and ACT, and I'll start with Vaishnavi's question. If you have taken grade 10th, like if you have taken SAT in grade 10th, it's okay. We will accept it. But as will be mentioned, taking it that early really does not help, because I know you might initially want to take a sample sort of a test, understand how you're scoring, and then you would want to take it in 11th and 12th too. So what you can rather do is do give a sample test for which you do not have to pay initially, and you can start preparing for that as early as you want to. But start appearing for it from grade 11th or 12th. All I'm trying to do is to save money. Don't push in, like, don't give the exam until and unless you're pretty sure about it. And like for an example, for Melbourne and for let's say Australia National University, they specifically do not need SATs at all. So for Australian universities, SATs are not mandatory. For University of Sydney, it's optional. So let's say for an example, you are a CBSE student. You do not meet the requirements for Bachelor of Commerce. But if you happen to have a SAT, which wherein you have a score of let's say 1370 or 1400, we will accept that, and you can get in through the alternate route of SAT. But many Australian universities may not accept that. So it is again advisable to check it with the university whether they accept the scores or they do.
Okay. I hope that helps Vaishnavi, your specific question. And thank you, Sandeep, for putting some light on SAT per se, because, yeah, we have to strategize well whether the university which we are targeting, right, or if it is in our college list, if it necessarily needs, and in specific cases, as you have mentioned. So with that, let me move on to another question, which is again related to test as such, and I'll try to club the question which is asked by Sanyukta as well. It is related to English proficiency tests. So are those tests mandatory? And Sanyukta's question is, if yeah, Cambridge. If it's a Cambridge A level student, do we still have to give English proficiency test? Yeah.
Thank you, Sanyukta, for the question. And honestly, sometimes it does put me on a spot. But I mean, I'll tell you the reason why it does that. So, universities in general, if you have appeared for, let's say, A level or IB, universities may waive that off. I know certain universities, if you have taken CBSE and you have scored certain mark, they may also waive that off. In terms of language proficiency test scores, again, as we have been saying, it is very university specific. Like, for example, University of Sydney. For CBSE, ISE, and HSE, we cannot waive it off. For IB and A level it's generally waived off. For IB, it depends on the medium of instruction as mentioned on their website. But, and here is the point, for your visa, you are anyways required to appear for your visa. So let's say if you're appearing for University of Sydney, again, they may upfrontly not ask for it. But in case a query comes up and the Department of Home Affairs ends up asking for a language proficiency test score, you need to have it with you. And for that, you only have 7 days to give that score. So ideally, it is advisable that you appear for the language proficiency test course for strengthening your visa application. From a university perspective, it really differs from university to university. If you are an A-level student, generally it might be waived off. But again, as I said, from visa perspective, you have to anyways give it. So give it. But you do not get scholarships basis your IELTS, TOEFL, PTE. So I hope that part is clear.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sandeep, for that as such. So I think this clarifies a lot when it comes to English proficiency test, because where it is relevant, you have actually kind of highlighted that. And it sounds like it's better to take it when you are trying for admissions in Australia, per se.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now I'll move on to the $1,000,000 question, and both literally and figuratively, which is studying abroad can be quite expensive for families, right? So how do undergraduate tuition fees for Australian universities is compared with those in other popular study abroad destinations like US, UK, Canada? And could you also provide the average range of annual tuition fees for Australian universities?
Absolutely. I mean, thank you so much for that question. I know how important it is. Someone who comes from a middle class family himself, I can really understand why that question is important. And I'll go back to the first question that we were talking about, wherein what is the right fit? So cost and scholarship, if you remember, we did mention that it is a very, very important prospect. But and that goes for all group of 8 universities, and I think universities worldwide, wherein we are trying to establish equity in our own sense. So
Yeah.
there are certain partial and full scholarship that a university may offer. So do check university's website. Again, as I was saying, for University of Sydney, we recently have started with a scholarship called Sydney International Undergraduate Academic Excellence Scholarship. There, what we cover is your full tuition up to 4 years and your student services and amenity fee, which again differs, I think, from $300 to $500 per university. Depends again. But these are the two things that we cover. Entire tuition fee could mean like we are talking about 1.5 CR. So that is what we can cover. Now, Australian universities, the tuition fee can be anywhere from 15 lakh per annum to up to 30 lakhs per annum, depending on the course and the university that you are getting into.
Mhm.
So do have like a dream option for you and the realist option wherein you have uh, taken care of the budgets and everything. So those should be the options wherein you can easily get in along with your academic performances. And then at a higher side, you can have group of 8 universities, but to target full scholarships there. And you will have them. So do reach out to university representatives to ask for it. We also have Sydney International Student Award, wherein we offer 20% tuition fee discount for the entire course. And that is purely on the basis of your essays. And it's like right there on offering. So if your essays are good, if your writing component is good, it's good. So do take help of Surbi, who has been the, great idea behind this program. So do reach out to her if you need any assistance with the scholarship essays as well for universities. And then we also have Sydney Scholars India Scholarship. So universities are really trying their best to offer what they can. As I said, the scholarships could be partial or fully funded, and
Mhm.
it really really depends on your marks, which takes the precedence, and then your essays. When you go to the website and they say apply here, so just click and then check what your essays are, and again, start early. Do not check for July intake in April what scholarships are there. Take help from Survey, as I mentioned, and see, identify those scholarships a year early and give yourself time to not only research about the university and the program, but really about your aspirations and why that specific question has been put there on the form. And then write your answers and prepare drafts of it and then have the final draft. I think that gives a good idea. Anything that you would want me to check back upon?
No, it does. It certainly does. And you have like kind of answered my next question as well, but I will just try to extend upon what you just responded. And maybe if you can also throw some light on, besides scholarships, definitely in other ways like financial aid, what other strategies can a family or a student apply to reduce their cost of attendance to a university?
That's really a good question because apart from your tuition cost, the other cost that is there is your living cost as well. And accommodation in Australia could be expensive. Like to give you an idea, in Melbourne, it could be somewhere around $400 to $500 a week. In Sydney, it ranges from $500 to $800 a week, depending on what accommodation type you're going for. So, what I generally suggest is start early. Like applications to University of Sydney, they start a year early, so you can apply when you're in 11. Once you have received a conditional offer, start searching for your accommodation options. So there are three types of accommodation in Australian universities. One is a university owned accommodation. What that means is that that accommodation is on the campus and is owned by the university. Food as an option may or may not be available, will depend on the university. Check with them. At University of Sydney, food options are not available on university-owned residences. The cost can be anywhere from $300 to $500 per week. It's a dorm-sized room, pretty much all right. Then the next option is university colleges. Now, these are colleges which are on the campus, but are not owned by the universities per se, but by the respective colleges. So the application process for them will be different. They will have their own interviews as well, and University of Sydney does not specifically have a say. Now, and the cost can be different, ranges from $600 to $700 per week, but it has meal as an option at University of Sydney. So there, that part gets taken care of. And if you would see through it, because it's on the campus, your transportation costs are reduced significantly.
True.
So
Yeah.
that is one. And then there are off-campus accommodation. Now, when we talk about off-campus accommodation, I really like Australia for this because if you're 18 and above, you can live off-campus and off-campus. It's absolutely a choice. As an undergraduate parent, I understand the parents are concerned. They would want them to stay on campus for at least one semester. But believe me, it's been 4 years that I've seen students going there. And 50% of the cohort of undergraduate students lives outside the campus. So it's absolutely fine. Not everybody gets an accommodation on the campus. It's very time taking, and they get filled really, really soon. So it's not just for Australia, it's all across, but that's how the situation has been. So what I would really advise is from to reduce a cost point perspective, start early, apply, and once you have a conditional offer, you can start looking for accommodation. And once you get a response, book it accordingly by paying a security deposit. I understand that you may not be really sure whether you want to go with this university or that university, and that is why I generally advise that start not in when you're grade 12. Start with your university preparation list in grade 11. Apply to at least 4 to 5 universities, and by then keep doing your research. Shortlist to, let's say, two by the time you're in grade 12. Do like, you will still have options, and I'm sure you will also be taking into consideration the full scholarships and everything, so that can still be set aside. But living is something where you can save a lot of cost. And the second aspect to it would be, what is that you are being paid for when you're talking from part-time or full-time job opportunities while you are studying your course. So like, for an
Yes.
example, for Australia, we pay you around $23 an hour, wherein you can uh, I think I'm really, really bad with maths, but I think you should be able to earn somewhere around, I think, $500-600, if that's the, like, if you're working for 24 hours a week. So do check that. But again, so you should be able to substantially take care of your living expenses as well. Do not entirely depend on them. So, but it is one way of taking care of your living costs. So I'll just put them in point format. Book your accommodation early, finalize your accommodation accordingly, try to live on or around the campus so your transportation costs are reduced, and then have a budget and plan. I had a student from Middle East in Sydney, wherein she was spending, I think, close to $1,000 or $1,200 a week. And the parent called the student services, and they were like, "I'm not sure why she's spending so much." So we had to literally counsel her from $1,200. And the reason that was because she was eating every single meal in a restaurant. So to ensure that her accommodation cost and the living cost comes down, so we had to tell her that, okay, in case you don't know how to cook, there are off meal options as well, wherein you can book a lunch, or let's say a tiffin, that the way we generally call it in India. And the cost for her, from $1,200, it came down, I think, barely to around $500-600 a week. So it was literally reduced in half. So do make that as a point, and that is why I would say apply early to a university, secure a conditional offer, and right there and then start applying for your accommodation, searching for them, and the accommodate as soon as the accommodation opens, apply for it, but do have a wait list option available as well. Do reach out to the off-campus accommodation, which are purposely built for students. Like, you have Scape, you Red Fern, University Living has also started to provide services in Australia. So do reach out to everybody, and then do that. One last option, I think, would be, because a lot of people will be taking education loans as well. So applying again early really helps you to negotiate on your interest rates as well. Not many people know that you can actually negotiate on that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go to 10 banks, public and private funded all, and then get interest rates from all of them, and then negotiate. Because generally what a bank does is that this is the best that we can offer. We cannot offer anything less. But the moment you say, okay, I have this X from this person, this specific bank, they may be tempted to reduce the interest, and that is in their hands. So this
Mm-hmm.
is something that I'm not saying as a Sydney representative, but something that I literally saw by my own eyes. So I think that should really help.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here. That's how I'll put it, Sandeep. I do have one question here, but I have started to receive more questions in the chat box itself. So I'll take Aditya's question and I'll try to club with mine as well. So you spoke about work opportunities, right, for international students. So he's asking what kind of opportunities are available and how easy it is to get those.
So I'll start with the easy part. Honestly, it's not easy to get a job. Imagine yourself as an employer, and imagine like 20 applicants who are applying with, let's say, for an example, 5 open positions. You would want to hire the best talent, even if you are paying $23 to them. And when I talk about talent, I'm not talking about you knowing AI, you knowing Java. What I'm talking about is you having leadership skills, great communication skill set, patience. For an example, I ordered veg aloo tikki. I'm sorry, I'm a vegetarian, and that's what I eat in McDonald's. So anytime you find me there, that's what my order is going to be. But let's say that day, I literally, after giving the order, I felt that I wanted it to be a meal. So and I don't want to come across as a stupid person, so I may end up saying, "But I ordered, and you took a wrong order, even if you did not." So as somebody who's taking an order, you can't be angry on them. You can't really tell them that, that's not what you said. You technically cannot call them a liar. So if you're able to handle these situations, then I would say that it's easy to get a job. So, and what type of jobs are available? I think the first part was answered. I'll try to now jump to the second part. What type of jobs are available? There are all types of jobs which are available, which could mean you can work as an accountant. You can work as somebody who takes care of the, like, whatever the budgeting goes in and goes out of a restaurant or anything. You can work in restaurants. You can work in malls. You can do internships which are paid. Generally, that will not happen from the first year. And then there are options which are available on campus as well, while they will be very few. And that could mean, like, for an example, you're working in a marketing department of University of Sydney. You could probably be working at one of the cafes at University of Sydney if the positions are available. You can work in, let's say, a library. So there are a whole lot of opportunities available. And what they pay you is somewhere around minimum or a little more than the minimum average. So as I said, the minimum that employer can pay you is $23 an hour AUD. I know of a student. She was studying Bachelor of Economics from the university. She was based out of Ahmedabad. So she came to University of Sydney, I believe, in 21, and she got a job within the marketing department of University of Sydney, being a Bachelor of Economics student, which, and marketing is within business, where she found the job. But the way she found it was, we send out newsletters.
Okay.
And myself, when I see that, because I have like close to 200 emails, and I'm sure once you are a student at University of Sydney, you will have a similar inbox, 200 emails. So what the first thing that you try to do is to delete the unwanted emails. And for me as well, I delete the newsletters that I receive from the vice chancellors and everybody. Don't do that. Because that is where sometimes you may find job opportunities. That's where she found it. So, and it was within the marketing department. She was getting paid around $27, $28 back when the minimum fee was $21. That we were supposed to pay, like the minimum. Like, it's not 23, then it was 21. So she was getting paid around $26, and the work was very less. So if you're lucky enough and you're vigilant enough, you should be able to find a job on the campus. It's not given that you will find it. So to summarize, it's not easy to get a job, but if you have the relevant skill sets, and do alter your resumes as well. Do not take 300 copies of resume and distribute it everywhere. Let's say if you're applying to as a librarian staff, switch your content for resume accordingly and change it if you're like looking to apply for a job in the mall, or if you're trying to apply for an internship with a business or an engineering firm. Do mention the relevant skill sets and compare them with, and do write a cover letter as well if you can. That really does that cover everything you wanted me to cover, Sylvie?
I think so. Thank you so much, Sandeep. And for the added tip as well, right? I am pretty sure it will benefit the students or aspirants who actually go ahead and study at the University of Sydney. Now, there is one question from Shori, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Pardon me if not. And it is switching back to the academics point of things. So he's asking, how do retakes for Cambridge AS level impact the applications to Australian colleges? Great question.
Good question, really. And again, when I started working with University of Sydney, I really did not know what AS level is. So that's why I'm saying it's very important as a question, because certain universities will take two AS level subjects and combine them to be one A level. So, and certain universities may not do that. So to like re-emphasize what we have been saying since the beginning of the webinar, it differs from university to university. And again, when I say university to university, I'm talking about group of 8 as well. Like for University of Sydney, we do not take AS level scores into consideration, but we only take care of your A level scores. So let's say if you have 3 A levels subjects, we take that as well, and that should be the minimum. And if you have 4 A level subjects, then we will take into account all 4 subjects. So that that is what it is for University of Sydney. For other universities, it will differ. So please ask them, and these requirements change every year. So a certain university which was accepting it till last year may not accept it this year. So keep yourself updated, check their university website, and check the requirements as well, because it will be mentioned there. So I think that A level part is answered. What was the second question, Sylvia? I'm sorry.
So his specific question was, and I think in a way you have answered that as well because you're not taking into account AS level for University of Sydney. His specific question was, how do retakes for Cambridge AS level impact applications to Australian colleges?
Yeah. So
Retakes.
in takes of in terms of retakes, if and because we do not accept AS, so it really does not matter. But let's say, for an example, in A level subject, in let's say March exam series, you appeared for it, and then the score that you got was a B. But later on, when you take it, you get an A. So we refer to A in that case. So what we really retakes really help in case your scores end up improving. But
Okay.
if it doesn't, then it doesn't. So I hope that part is also clear now.
I hope so, Shari. I think if you have a follow up there, you can put it in the chat box. Yeah, he gave a thumbs up, so we are good there. So I know we have like close to 5 minutes left, Sandeep. So I wanted to also ask you specific questions related to University of Sydney. Though you have covered a lot in your earlier responses itself, but help us understand what is the USP or distinguished factor of University of Sydney as compared to other universities in Australia, and maybe just primarily with group of eight. So what makes University of Sydney different?
Thank you so much for that question. And I mean that's really important, because most of the times I forget that I work for University of Sydney because I start talking like a counselor. So the way I really see it is, and I really love Sydney. It's been, I think, 4.5 years since I've been working for them. And the reason I actually love them is not because how high they are ranked, not because how much salary they pay me, but really because of the course that they offer and the way they offer it. So for an example, I'll give you a very quick thing, and probably that will answer one other question wherein we were talking about reducing the cost of study. So at University of Sydney, we have a format of education wherein we call it as a shared pool of majors and
Yeah.
minors. Now, what that means is you can come from any background, like you can be a humanities student, but you can study business with us, or to take it to another notch level, you can study Doctor of Medicine, or maybe even, let's say, sciences with us.
Oh,
So that
okay.
is one. Like, we do not need prerequisite subject to study any discipline at University of Sydney.
Okay.
Second USP would be, let's say you are interested in a Bachelor of Commerce program, but you do not meet the requirements. Because
Mm-hmm.
of shared pool of major and minor, you can apply for a Bachelor of Art or Bachelor of Science program per se. The entry requirements for them are slightly lower. So when you do that, your first major becomes, let's say, something from arts or something from science, which could, let's say, be psychology, for an example. Or if
Mm-hmm.
you're taking arts, then let's say make it international relations. But your second major, because you initially wanted to study commerce, can come from business. And
Yes.
it's a major, so it's not a minor. It's There is nothing we call a secondary major. Major is a major. You study
Mhm.
48 credit points in that. The
Okay.
What you would have studied in a Bachelor of Commerce as a major is same what you're studying in a Bachelor of Arts program. So there is no difference per se when you're choosing a specific major. And that is where I come to the cost saving part. You are still completing your degree in 3 years if you're doing dual majors, if you plan that right. So it does not mean that if you are doing a dual majors, the course length would increase. If you're able to plan it rightly, the course fee would remain the same. The amount that you're spending there remains the same. And remember, when we are talking about two majors, it means two different and distinct specializations. So
Yeah.
for an example, you can club psychology with criminology, which is an arts major compared to a science major. You can study international relations with business analytics, which is a business and arts major. You can actually combine data analytics, which data science, sorry, which is a science major with, let's say, management and leadership, which is again a business major. So you can do that interdisciplinary mix and match sort of a thing. And let's say after the first semester, you want to change the specialization from, let's say, international relations to maybe, let's say, Sanskrit. And what I'm trying to do is just talk about how diverse the education is. You can actually study that as well. And the best part, the course duration is 3 years. Now try to compare that with US and Canada. The duration is 4 years there. So, and the length of the degree does not determine its quality. So what you are earning there in 4 years, you are able to complete that in 3 years here. So you are saving 1 year of tuition, 1 year of living expenses, and what you get in terms of post-study work permit is 2 years if you are doing your bachelor's, 3 years if you are doing your master's. But, and this is basis the ACTA agreement that was signed between India and Australia. If you are passing out of a STEM degree with first class honors, after completing your bachelor studies, you can get anywhere from 3 to, like, extended work permit rather than just 2 years. It can be 4 years as well. And for a master students, from 3 years, it can be 5 years. So 2 years of added work experience is something that you can get as a part of studying in an Australian program. So that is something I know I'm talking from a wider Australian perspective, but I believe it's high time that we start thinking about other destinations apart from US, UK, and Canada. And I really think the offerings that you currently have in an Australian education system really takes the precedence everywhere. So that is one. We are ranked 18th in the world. So quality wise, we are amazing. Our graduates are ranked fourth in the world ahead of Harvard, Oxford, and Cambridge. And as I was saying, the reason I love University of Sydney is it's like one of the sandstone universities. So generally, the way you try to compare it with Ivy Leagues in the US, Russell Group in the UK, we have our own group of eight. But the reason I love Sydney is because of its architecture, its the heritage it has. It has taught 8 prime ministers of Australia, including the current prime minister. We are ranked first in sustainability. We are carbon neutral now. We had the target of 2030. We were able to achieve that last year.
Awesome.
So we are very conscious, and the best part, I think, I can do that. I think this is the first time I'm doing it. I'm not supposed to, but just because we are here, so we will be opening up India Innovation Challenge from 8th of July. The website is live. The competition is, like, it's still out there. We have not officially announced, so please don't email the university. Email Surbi, and I am happy to unofficially talk to you about it. But if you're a parent, and if your child is in grade 11th or 12th, or if you're a student who is in grade 11th and 12th, do check out India Innovation Challenge. Do check out what the challenge this year is, and participate. Like, it's a really good opportunity to showcase why it's important. And I hope we are able to showcase that by giving you those opportunities, how conscious we are of our Indian students and the co.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Sandeep. And just to kind of extend upon what you mentioned, even when I get an opportunity to interact with students who have studied in University of Sydney or currently pursuing, one constant feedback which I get is that it's a very student-friendly university. They enjoy their time there. They enjoy access to all different resources. So that's the one constant feedback which I have got. So definitely University of Sydney has done a great job there. So congratulations on that. And in a way, it is showing up in all different feedback or ways of interaction with the students too.
Just one last thing, and I'm not sure how I forgot that, because I think I ended up talking about it initially. Any program that you study in University of Sydney, whether that is Bachelor of Arts, Science, Commerce, or Engineering, work integrated learning is an important concept to us. What that means is that whatever program you study, there is an internship and capstone project which is a part of your program. So if you're doing, let's say, engineering, as I said, you are asked to work for 600 hours or else you don't get your degree. And it's not just engineering focused. We are trying to make leaders out of you. And I don't mean to say that as in manufacture, but what I'm trying to say is, like, we really try to give you the skill sets that are required in the world out there. If you're planning for, let's say, a business program, then you do can take part in industry placement program or Job Smart Edge, which really provides you an access to 3 to 4 internship while you are completing your degree. If you're taking science, you have a second and a third year unit wherein you can have a work integrated learning unit as a part of your course, for which you get credits as well towards your degree. So it's not just work, you actually get credits for that in your degree as well. They teach you how to write your project reports, how to write your white papers. This is something that I was not aware, and I had completed my master's. So it's really important. And what that does is, once you graduate out of University of Sydney, especially after you're completing your bachelor's, you don't have to go for your master's right away. Like, you're greatly employable in the industry. And once you start working for close to 5 to 10 years, and if you think about doing a master's, then please feel free to do it. But after, like, this is something that I've personally felt after interacting with a lot of students there. Masters gradually will not be a necessity.
Mhm.
Bachelor's right at this time is. And when you're trying to finalize a university, do think about the course opportunities. And course opportunity means
Mhm.
what exposure it provides you.
True.
And if you have enough exposure, I think you should be able to finalize the best university for you. And with that, I would really like to leave it at that. I think I have answered all the questions. In case I've missed out on anything, so please just email me, text me, whichever thing works for you. And thank you to everybody for giving us a time, I think, on a Sunday. We were supposed to keep it for 1 hour, I believe. I think we have already extended that. So thank you so much, sir. I mean, that always happens with me. I'm so sorry.
No, no, Sandeep, I realized that 1 hour was maybe short as such, because there's so many details to uncover as well. But yes, you provided a lot of good details. I think this is something which can help the audience a lot. And definitely, if there are more questions, I am there to help, and you are certainly there to help as well. So thank you so much, Sandeep, for your time today on a Sunday. And as always, you have been a champion for students. That's something which I'll never shy away from saying. So thank you for coming over and providing all the details. And thank you for our audience as well for asking all good questions and being there throughout the session as well.
Absolutely, Sylvie. Thank you so much. And thank you again, everyone who joined us for a Sunday. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good one, everyone. Bye bye.